The sky over planet Zarian turned red as a burning object shot across the clouds. It moved fast, cutting the air like a blade of fire. People from the alien city below looked up in fear and confusion. It was not a star, and it was not falling. Like a rock, it was something else. A young alien girl named Lyra stood near the edge of the stone bridge. She saw the object crash into the thick jungle on the horizon. The ground shook slightly, and a thin trail of smoke rose into the sky. Lyra's heart beat fast, and her sharp green eyes narrowed. That was a ship, she whispered to herself. Back in the jungle, the broken spaceship lay silent. Its metal body was torn. Its lights were fading. Inside the wreck, only one human remained alive, a young man named Eli. His face was covered in cuts, and his breathing was slow but steady. Alien patrol units reached the crash site quickly. They moved in silence, their weapons ready. They had never seen a ship like this before, and when they saw Eli, they froze. A human, one of them said in disbelief. But that's impossible. Humans are extinct. Still, they carried Eli back to their city and placed him in a containment room. Guards stood around him, watching carefully. Unsure if he was a threat or a myth come true, news of the crash spread fast. Many in the alien council were afraid. They believed humans were dangerous, a lost species from ancient times. No one had seen one for over 1,000 years. Lyra was curious, more than afraid. She had read old scrolls about humans and the ancient times. There were stories that long ago, humans and her people lived together, but something terrible happened, and the two were split. Since then, the human language was banned, forgotten, and buried. That night, while Eli slept in the guarded room, Lyra sneaked in. She hid behind a pillar and watched him from the shadows. He was talking in his sleep, mumbling broken words. Then suddenly, he said something clear, something that made Lyra's blood turn cold. Zedekiah Lorantries. He whispered. Lyra's eyes went wide. That was not gibberish. It was a sentence from the ancient language, a language her people once spoke, but no one alive used anymore. She stepped forward, her voice shaking. You speak the dead language of our ancestors? She said in surprise. Eli woke up slowly, his eyes opening halfway. He saw the alien girl in front of him, with glowing blue skin and strange markings on her face. He blinked, too weak to answer. But then he spoke again, softly. Zedekiah. Unity. Lyra was shocked. How could this human know the sacred tongue? Where did he learn it? Who taught him? And what did it mean that he came now, after all this time? She turned and ran back to the council chambers. They needed to hear this, but as she ran, doubts filled her mind. Would they believe her? Or would they see him as a threat and end his life before the truth could be known? Meanwhile, inside his dark cell, Eli dreamed again. He saw images of an ancient gate, voices calling out to him, and a sentence glowing in light. The one who speaks the forgotten will open the sealed truth. He didn't understand it yet, but deep inside, he knew he had come here for a reason, and that reason was now waking up, far above the planet. Something else moved in the stars. A signal had been sent the moment Eli's ship crashed. Someone or something had noticed, and they were coming. Asterisk silence filled the great chamber of the elders. 12 alien leaders sat in a circle of stone, their faces half covered in shadows. Each one wore robes stitched with glowing patterns, symbols of wisdom and power. The air was cold, yet heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding a breath. In the center of the room stood Eli, the human, still weak but standing. 2 guards held him by the arms, his eyes scanning the strange room. Above him floated a silver sphere, recording everything. It hummed softly, like a sleeping storm. Lyra stood near the council, her voice calm but strong. He spoke the old tongue, she said. Not broken words, not a guess, real sentences from the language of our ancestors, the council murmured. Among themselves, an elder named Sorik stood, his voice deep and sharp. Lies can be sweet, he said, and dangerous. Another elder Una looked at Lyra with kind but careful eyes. You are young, curious, full of heart. But do not forget history, child. Lyra stepped forward. I know what I heard, she said. He said Zedekai Lorantris, the path of unity. The elders went silent. That phrase was part of a prophecy none had spoken for centuries. Only written in forbidden scrolls hidden in the vault of stone. Sorok turned to Eli. Speak, human, he said. Who are you? Where did you learn that tongue? Ele looked at him, confused and tired. My name is Eli, he said, slowly. I was taught by a man on earth who studied lost languages. He called it the root voice, and said it connects us to the beginning. The room stirred again. Elders whispered to each other in hushed tones. Some looked afraid, others angry. Sorok slammed his staff on the ground. This is not a boy, this is a signal, he said. If he speaks the root voice, then something is returning. He pointed at Eli. And we must decide, do we silence this voice or listen to it? The chamber grew dark as a symbol lit up under Eli's feet. A circle with 7 lines pointing outward, the seal of unity. Only the council chamber had such a mark, and it had not glowed in over 900 years. Lyra gasped. It's responding. To him, she whispered. Una looked thoughtful. The seal chooses, not us, she said. Perhaps we should test him. The council agreed to a trial. If Eli was truly connected to the old ways, he would pass. If not, he would be exiled or worse. But no one told him what the trial was, only that it would begin at dawn. That night, Eli sat in a stone cell, the walls carved with glowing text. He traced the words with his fingers. They felt familiar, like a memory trying to wake up. In his sleep, he dreamed of a tower made of light and a voice calling his name, Eli. Speak, and you will remember. Meanwhile, Lyra was in the library of the Forbidden's vault. She searched through scrolls, her hands shaking. She found a symbol, the same as the one under Eli's feet, and next to it, a sentence. When one speaks what is forgotten, the gates will shift and the past shall rise. Suddenly, she heard a sound. A figure moved in the shadows behind her. Someone had followed her into the vault. She turned, heart pounding. A voice whispered, You should not be here, Lyra. The suspense tightened like a rope. Secrets were rising, but so were eyes watching from the dark. Eli's trial would begin soon, but it wasn't only about him. It was about the truth the elders had buried long ago, and the fear that it was coming back. The stars above Zarian blinked like quiet watchers, but deep beneath the alien city, something ancient had awakened. Stone walls whispered to themselves, and long-forgotten symbols flickered to life. Dust moved in places that hadn't felt breath. In centuries, Lyra walked carefully through the Forbidden's vault, her fingers brushing ancient scrolls. The voice she had heard in the shadows, it belonged to Terran, her childhood friend, now a loyalist to the council. You know this place is banned, he said. Stepping closer, Lyra didn't back away. And yet, you followed me here, she replied. They stared at each other in the dim blue glow. Terran's eyes fell to the scroll in her hand, one marked. With the seal of unity, you found it, he whispered. The one we were never meant to read. Lyra slowly opened the scroll, her hands shaking. The paper was soft like skin and written in the root voice, the lost human alien language. It showed a map, but not of any land they knew. This was a sky map, showing constellations, paths of stars, and at the center, a symbol that pulsed with strange light. Eli's symbol, it's a stargate, Lyra said softly, hidden on this planet. Terran's voice dropped to a whisper. I read once that such gates were used by the ancients to cross galaxies instantly. Lyra nodded. If that gate still works. Maybe Eli didn't crash by accident. Back in his stone cell, Eli sat quietly. A new marking had appeared on his palm overnight. A glowing arc of light. He didn't know what it meant. But when he pressed his hand against the wall, the same arc appeared there, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a piece of an ancient key shaped exactly like the center of the map. At dawn, the trial was delayed. The elders received news that shocked them. The vault had been opened. Scrolls were missing, symbols had glowed, panic spread. But Sirach was silent, staring at the sky through a crack in the stone ceiling. "They found it," he said to himself. "The past refuses to stay buried." Lyra and Terran met Eli secretly at the old archives. They placed the map on a crystal table and aligned the symbols. Suddenly, a projection lit up the chamber, a 3D model of the Stargate hovering in the air. Beneath it, a message in the root voice appeared. Only the speaker of the first word may unlock the path of return. Eli stepped closer. "I know that sentence," he said. "My teacher on Earth made me repeat it every day." His voice trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper, recognition. When he repeated the phrase aloud, the projection spun faster, and a piece of the star map burned into his mind. A flash, a sound like wind passing through metal. And a short memory played in Eli's head, his teacher showing him a picture of a gate, saying, "Someday, the lost will find their way back through this door." Terran looked at the others. "If this is true, then your crash wasn't random." Eli nodded. "I was sent." "Or guided," he said. "But by who?" Meanwhile, on the far edge of the galaxy, a black ship moved through the void. Inside it, beings cloaked in shadow received the same signal Eli had triggered. Their captain smiled slowly. "So the gate stirs," he said. "After 1,000 years. The key has returned." Back on Zarian, the map began to change. The projection showed the gate buried under a ruined city in the north, forgotten after a great war. But reaching it wouldn't be easy. Between them and the gate stood deadly terrain, ancient traps, and creatures that had once guarded the truth. And worse, Sirach had ordered secret patrols to stop them. The race had begun. Not just to find the gate, but to unlock the truth behind why humans disappeared and what happens if they return. Asterisk, the wind howled through the jagged cliffs of the Black Ridge. Below, ancient roads cracked under the weight of time. Forgotten by maps and memory, in the distance, 3 small shadows moved fast through the dust. Lyra, Eli, and Terran, running toward the coordinates shown by the star map. Running toward the gate, they had been moving for 2 days, hiding from patrols and drones. Every step took them closer to the northern ruins and deeper into danger. Lyra kept checking the old scroll she carried in her bag, the symbols on. It had started to shift, glowing slowly as they neared the destination. Ele walked silently, his mind full of questions. The image from the star map still burned behind his eyes, and the strange mark on his palm had grown brighter. But something else bothered him, the feeling that someone was watching, not from above, not from behind, from within. At night, they found shelter inside a broken observatory half buried in sand. Old machines sat silent, covered in vines and dust. They took turns resting while the stars blinked through broken glass above. Terran stayed awake, sitting near a strange round console. His eyes stared at the screen, but his hand slowly reached into his coat. He pulled out a small black cube. Flashing with red light, he whispered into it. "They found the gate." The cube responded with a pulse. "Delay them until we arrive," the voice inside said. Terran closed his eyes, guilt washing over him like cold rain. He remembered growing up with Lyra, reading old stories together. He had once believed in peace, in unity, but fear is a quiet killer, and the Council's promise was clear. Betray them, and he would be spared. The next morning, Lyra found Eli outside, drawing the star map into the sand. "It's like my mind already knows the way," he said. Lyra nodded. "The scrolls say the gate answers only to the one who speaks the first word." She paused and asked Eli, "What if the gate isn't just a door?" Ele looked at her. "What do you mean? What if it's a weapon?" She said quietly, "What if that's why they buried it?" Before he could answer, a loud boom echoed through the air. Drones flying fast toward them, weapons charged. "It's a trap!" Eli shouted, Terran stood behind them, his cube now fully lit. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. Lyra stared at him in disbelief. You led them here?" Explosions rocked the ground. They ran toward the canyon edge, rocks falling behind them. Blaster fire lit up the sky, and the ground split beneath their feet. Terran hesitated, then pushed Eli out of the way of falling. "Debris, go!" He yelled. "I'll slow them down." Lyra hesitated, then grabbed Eli's hand and pulled him into a narrow passage. Behind them they heard Terran shout one last time, "I'm sorry, Lyra." They escaped through a tunnel, breathing hard, hearts racing. When they reached the end, they saw something that made them freeze. Below them, carved into the earth, stood the ruins of the ancient city, and at its center, covered in vines and blue crystal, the gate. It was real, massive, and still humming with quiet energy. Eli's mark glowed bright, and so did the symbols carved into the gate. It was waking up, responding to his presence. Lyra looked at Eli, tears in her eyes from betrayal and awe. "You were meant to find this," she said. "But now, the council is coming." Far away, the black ship from deep space received Terran's last signal. The figure in command, not part of the council, not part of Azarian at all, smiled. "The gate has opened," it whispered, "and history is ready to repeat itself." Lightning cracked over the ruined city. Rain began to fall, cold and sharp like broken glass. The ancient gate pulsed with light, a steady heartbeat from a time before memory, and standing before it, drenched and breathless, were Eli and Lyra. Behind them, the sound of marching echoed through the stone. The council's soldiers had arrived, more than a dozen, armed with plasma rifles, tracking drones, and orders to kill or capture. Lyra turned to Eli. "You said you could open it," she whispered. Eli nodded, though his hands trembled. I can feel it calling me, but it's not ready yet." They ran toward the gate's central platform, stepping over fallen pillars and tangled vines. The glowing mark on Eli's palm matched the pattern carved into the stone. He placed his hand in the center, and the ground began to shake. The gate responded, lights circling outward like ripples in water. Suddenly, the platform lifted into the air, revealing stairs underneath. Spiraling down into the dark, Lyra stared in awe. "There's something below it," she said. "A core," Eli answered. "Maybe a control center," but they didn't have time. Blaster fire cracked through the air. A drone spotted them, sending a signal to the others. "Run!" Lyra shouted, grabbing Eli's arm. They jumped down the staircase just as the first shots hit the stone above them. The spiral path was narrow and steep, lit only by the glowing walls. Symbols moved beside them, changing shapes as they passed. The gate was testing Eli, recognizing him, questioning him. At the bottom, they entered a round chamber. In the center floated a device shaped like a sphere made of crystal and metal. It hummed, reacting to Eli's presence. He stepped forward and touched it. A surge of energy burst through the room, lighting up every symbol on the walls. A voice echoed, not from the device, but from the space itself. "Speaker of the root voice," it said. "Your blood carries the memory of unity, Lyra," and Eli looked at each other, stunned. "I don't understand what that means." Eli said. The voice replied, "Then you must remember." Suddenly, the chamber filled with holograms, visions of the past, humans and aliens working together, building stargates, sharing knowledge. Then came war, division, fear, and finally silence. One final message burned into the air. "When the voice returns, so shall the key." Eli fell to his knees, overwhelmed, but the moment didn't last. An explosion rocked the staircase. The soldiers had found the way in. "We need to move now," Lyra shouted. Eli grabbed the floating device. It responded to him like it belonged to his body. The walls opened behind them, revealing a hidden tunnel. They ran, heartbeats matching the pounding thunder above. The tunnel twisted and turned, leading them through forgotten chambers and ghostly corridors. Once, they passed a giant metal statue, a guardian built by the ancients. Its eyes followed them as they passed. Then it moved. The statue came alive, metal joints grinding with ancient strength. It stepped into the tunnel, blocking the path behind them. One swipe of its arm crushed a stone wall. Ailey turned and shouted words in the root voice. Instinct, not thought. The guardian froze, then bowed. Lyra gasped. "It obeys the language," she said. "It obeys you." They continued forward, finally reaching an exit chamber that opened to the cliffs, but the council soldiers were waiting above, guns aimed down, a flash of light from the sky. A new ship appeared, black and sharp like a blade, descending fast. "That's not the council," Lyra said, her voice tight with fear. "It's someone else," Eli whispered. "Someone worse." As the ship landed, a figure stepped out, tall, armored in silver, with eyes like cold fire. He looked at Eli and smiled. "So, you are the key," he said. "And now, the lock will open." The storm roared louder, and the gate behind them began to glow again. The escape was over, the real battle was about to begin. The storm outside screamed across the cliffs. Lightning flashed above the ruined city, and the ancient gate pulsed like a heart about to wake. But deep underground, where light had not touched for centuries, something else had opened. A second chamber, hidden beneath the spiral stairs. It had sensed Eli's voice, his blood, his presence, and now it revealed its true purpose. Lyra followed Eli through the cracked doorway, her hands shaking. The air inside felt electric, alive, as if the room itself was breathing. The walls glowed with patterns too old to read, too beautiful to forget. In the center stood a tall obelisk, made of stone and silver. Floating above it, a black cube, spinning slowly. Eli stepped forward, drawn to it like a dream. The cube responded, humming in a deep tone that echoed in their bones. Then, without warning, the room shut behind them, sealing them in. Lyra ran to the door, pounding it. "It's locked," she whispered. "We're trapped." "No," Eli said. "We're being tested." The cube dropped into his hands like it had waited for him. Symbols lit up across it, each one pulsing with soft blue light. Then a voice spoke from the air, calm and ancient. Identity confirmed. Echo of the root voice. Final trial initiated. The floor below them shifted, sinking slowly into a new chamber. A circular room with 7 doors, each carved with a different symbol. Fire, water, time, light, memory, shadow, and unity. "You must choose." The voice said, "One path leads to the gate's control, one leads to your end." Lyra looked at Eli. "How do you know which is right?" She asked. "I don't," he replied, "but I feel unity." He stepped toward the door with the symbol of unity, a circle broken, then healed. As he touched it, the door opened, and light spilled out like sunrise over a dead world. Inside was not a room, it was a memory, but not his. He and Lyra stood inside a great hall from long ago, not ruined, but alive. Humans and aliens sat together, working, laughing, building the gate. And in the center stood a man, Eli's teacher, younger and stronger. He looked at Eli directly, through the memory. "If you're seeing this," he said, "then the gate has chosen you." He spoke in the root voice, and behind him, a great map of stars shifted in the air. "The war broke us," he continued, "but the gate is our second chance. It can connect again or destroy everything. And only you, who carries both past and future, can decide." The memory faded, and they stood again in the quiet chamber. The cube in Eli's hand turned silver, and the obelisk cracked open. Inside, a glowing crystal key, shaped like the symbols on the star map. Eli picked it up, and the ground shook above them. The ancient gate came alive. Its rings spun slowly, and symbols across its surface lit one by one. The platform rose again, bringing them back to the surface, but the storm was gone. The sky above was black, not night but shadow. The black ship hovered above the gate, and the armored figure stood waiting. His name was Varan, a hunter of ancient technologies, a collector of lost power. You opened it, he said, smiling with cold eyes. Now give me the key. Lyra stepped in front of Ailey. No, she said. It's not yours, Varan laughed. I know, he replied. It was never mine. It was mine to take. He raised his hand, and from the ship, something descended. A second gate fragment. Corrupted, dark, unstable, Varan had found part of a second gate, and planned to merge them. If he succeeded, the power could tear open space itself, unleashing something far worse than war. Eli looked at the true gate behind him, then at the key in his hand. It wants to open, he said. It wants to remember. Then he stepped forward, holding the key high. The gate roared to life, light flooding across the city ruins, and in that light, all secrets would rise. The sky was torn between two lights, one from the ancient gate glowing with pure energy, the other from the corrupted fragment Varan had brought, dark and unstable. The world held its breath, because whatever happened next would echo across galaxies. Eli stood at the center of the storm, the crystal key in his hand, Lyra beside him. Her eyes locked on the massive rings above. The true gate spun faster now, whispering in the lost voice of their ancestors. It wasn't just technology. It was alive across the ruins. Soldiers watched in silence, unsure whether to fight, run, or kneel. Even the council's forces had paused, because deep inside, they all felt it. This was no longer just about Eli or Lyra. It was about truth. Varan stepped forward, his voice like thunder wrapped in ice. You think this is destiny, he said, but it's just old mistakes waking up. He raised his corrupted fragment. And I will shape the future with fear. He slammed his device into the ground dark. Tendrils of energy shot out, wrapping around the true gate. The sky above split open, revealing a void not meant to be seen. The gate shuddered, confused, caught between its true form and the twisted code. Eli's mark burned on his palm. The key pulsed like a heartbeat out of time. Then he heard a voice, not from the gate, not from the air, from within. Speak, it said, and the past shall return. Eli stepped forward, voice shaking but clear. He spoke in the root voice, the forgotten language of unity, word by word, line by line. He didn't need to remember. The gate remembered through him. As he spoke, the symbols on the gate pushed back the corruption, one by one. Varan's shadow tendrils turned to dust. The ground cracked under his feet. He screamed, "What are you? How do you remember?" Eli kept speaking, louder now. The language was no longer forgotten. It was alive, and in that moment, the gate opened, truly opened, not to another planet, but to memory itself. A wave of light spread across the land, every being touched by it saw visions, not illusions, but truths. Aliens saw their ancestors standing side by side with humans. Children saw cities of both species, glowing together. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Elders wept. Even Lyra fell to her knees, overwhelmed by beauty and sorrow. The voice of the gate spoke again. The silence is broken. The choice is yours. Eli looked at Varan, now on the ground, broken and afraid. No more fear, Eli said. No more lies. He placed the crystal key into the heart of the gate, and with one final surge of light, the gate stabilized. A new path opened, not just through space, but through understanding. Lyra stepped beside him, tears in her eyes, but a small smile on her lips. We're not myths anymore, she said. We're history, finally remembered, behind them. The council approached, but not with chains, with bowed heads. Una, the elder with kind eyes, whispered, "We were wrong to bury the truth. Let us build again." And so it began. The gate remained open, not as a weapon, but as a bridge, a second beginning. In the days that followed, messages were sent across the stars, to forgotten colonies, silent planets, hidden stations. The root voice returned, not to divide, but to connect. And the story of Eli, the boy who spoke the dead language, became the first chapter in a new history, one written by two worlds as one.